Chosen one, this message didn't find you by accident. God led you here for a reason. You've been feeling it. The inner stirring. The subtle but constant sense that something is shifting. You're not imagining it. You're not overthinking it. You're in the final stage of your full spiritual awakening. And once this phase completes, nothing in your life will remain the same. Not your mindset, not your relationships, not even how you see yourself. This is not about religion. This is about a divine reset, a spiritual promotion, a sacred unlocking. You didn't just survive your past for no reason. You were being prepared. And this moment, this message, it's the confirmation that you're almost there. But before the light breaks fully through, there's one more stage, one more transformation, one final stretch of becoming. Before we dive into this divine revelation, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because this isn't just a video, it's a spiritual activation. It's a final call to the chosen ones who are on the edge of their full awakening. If your spirit is resonating right now, if you feel that stirring in your soul, type 77 in the comments. That number isn't random. It's a prophetic signal, a sacred code that tells the Most High and the universe, I'm aligned. I'm ready. I receive the final stage of my awakening. Understand this. Not everyone will make it to the end of this message. Only those truly called, only those truly chosen, and those who stay until the end. They will gain clarity. They will activate higher awareness. They will unlock hidden blessings that have been waiting on their awakening. This isn't a message you hear once and forget. It's a spiritual key. It's a layered truth that unfolds deeper with every listen. So come back to it as many times as your spirit leads you, because each time another layer will be revealed and your awakening will accelerate. You've made it this far. Now let's walk into the final stretch. Together, let's walk through it, step by step. Chapter 1. The silence before the shift. Chosen one, before any divine shift takes place, there is always a sacred silence that falls across your life, a stillness that seems to quiet everything. Your prayers, your visions, even your sense of spiritual connection. It's not the silence of abandonment, but the silence of alignment. It's the holy pause before heaven begins to move. Right now, you may be in that place. You've been praying, fasting, obeying. You've been doing all the things you were led to do, but suddenly, it's as if the heavens have gone silent. No clear direction, no new instructions, no confirmation. It almost feels like you're being ignored. But you're not. You're being watched. Not watched in judgment, but in expectation. Heaven is holding its breath because you're right at the edge of becoming. This silence is not empty. It's full. It's heavy. It carries weight. This is the kind of silence that comes before a miracle. This is the silence that surrounds a soul just before they remember who they are. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something greater. It's where your faith is being tested, yes. But even more than that, it's where your identity is being revealed. You're not in a void. You're in a vault. You're not being ignored. You're being initiated. Think about it. Just like a teacher is silent during the final exam, heaven goes quiet when it's your turn to activate what you've been taught. The silence doesn't mean you're disconnected. It means you're equipped. You already have what you need. The prayers you once prayed are already working in the background. The seeds you planted in tears are already sprouting underground. What you think is inactivity is actually incubation. And that's the danger of misinterpreting divine silence. If you're not careful, you'll think God left, when in fact, He's watching you step into what he already placed inside you. You'll think you're waiting on him, when in truth, heaven is waiting on your realization. This is the moment between the pressing and the pouring. It's the sacred pause before the promise is fulfilled. And in this silence, you are not losing anything. You are gaining clarity. You are being calibrated. You are being stabilized in preparation for something far greater than what you imagined. Everything around you may seem quiet, but everything within you is shifting. Heaven may not be loud right now, but that doesn't mean heaven isn't active. It means the instruction has already been given. The next step is already ordained. The move of God is already set in motion. Now it's your spirit that must align with what's coming. This is the final pause before the breakthrough. It's the calm before the acceleration. And when the shift begins, it's going to come quickly. What was delayed will be delivered. What felt blocked will be released. What was hidden will be revealed. But right now, your job is simple. Don't mistake the silence for absence. Don't panic. Don't retreat. Don't try to fill the silence with noise. Instead, sit in it. Listen. Trust it. Because silence doesn't mean you've been forgotten. It means something is being formed. And when it finally breaks, when heaven finally moves, you won't just be ready for it. You'll be the reason it moves. Chapter 2: The Pressure That Breaks Old Patterns. Chosen one. If you're feeling like life has gotten heavier lately, like everything is closing in on you, stretching you, or demanding more than usual, this is not a sign that you're off track. In fact, it's proof that you're right on schedule. This is the part of your journey where pressure replaces comfort. Not to punish you, but to position you. The weight you feel is spiritual. It's the type of weight that bends but doesn't break. You're being expanded from the inside out, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because the next version of you can't emerge inside old systems, old stories, or old cycles. The intensity isn't random. It's sacred, and it has one mission: to break every outdated pattern in your life that's been quietly capping your growth. You can't carry old mindsets into new seasons. You can't ascend while still attached to what God already told you to release. The pressure is forcing decisions you've delayed. It's revealing truths you've tried to ignore. It's making what's familiar feel uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, but because something is evolving. This pressure is the fire that purifies. It's the spiritual weight that transforms who you are into who you were always meant to become. You're being asked to let go of what once fit you: outdated friendships, roles that drained you, responsibilities that weren't yours to carry, ways of thinking that were birthed in survival but now sabotage your success. Even your old prayers, those safe, small, survival-based petitions, are being replaced by bold declarations that stretch your faith and realign your voice with your divine authority. This season will stretch your patience, your perspective, and your posture. But it's not here to destroy you. It's here to expose the cracks in your foundation so they can finally be repaired. You'll notice your spirit doesn't feel settled in places where you once felt safe. You may even begin to grieve things that you thought you wanted, because now you see they were beneath your calling. The clarity that pressure brings is not always comfortable, but it is always necessary. Chosen one, you were never called to remain the same, and the pressure is God's way of pushing you beyond who you used to be. You're not just being challenged, you're being changed. Every tight place is producing strength. Every internal war is birthing wisdom, and every spiritual stretch is creating space for the divine version of you to rise. Understand this. The enemy didn't send this pressure. God did. This is not warfare. This is refinement. You're being pressed not to punish you, but to purify you. Heaven is pressing out every trace of doubt that's been hiding behind your talent, every layer of fear that's been limiting your obedience, every ounce of shame still lingering from your past, because you cannot awaken fully while still identifying with your former self. There's no room for compromise where you're headed. There's no space for fear where you're rising. You are being reshaped into someone more courageous, more precise, more purpose-driven. The pressure is God's fingerprint on your soul, molding you like clay into a vessel that can carry glory without leaking. Chapter 3: The Loneliness That Reveals Your True Source. Chosen one, you've likely noticed a shift in your relationships. People you once leaned on have grown distant. The calls have slowed down. The texts have stopped. The rooms that once welcomed you now feel cold and unfamiliar. And in this season, it can feel like you've been left alone to carry the weight of your awakening. But hear this: you're not being abandoned. You're being aligned. This stage of isolation is not a spiritual punishment. It's a divine purification. You see, before God fully releases you into your next level, He removes every false sense of support that you thought was holding you up. Not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants you to see the truth. That He has been your source all along. Every resource, every opportunity, every breakthrough that looked like it came from people, it was always God behind the scenes. And now, He's calling you into solitude so you can stop depending on the creation and start depending on the Creator. This kind of loneliness isn't empty, it's holy. It's the kind of solitude that prophets walked through before the mantle fell. It's the kind of silence Jesus embraced before the miracles began. It's the sacred cocoon where transformation happens, where identities are refined, and where illusions are stripped away. In this stage, you may feel misunderstood, overlooked, and even betrayed. But don't be dismayed. What looks like rejection is really redirection. What feels like abandonment is actually alignment. God is removing the distractions, the crutches, the counterfeit comforts, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Because in the next season, you won't be able to afford to rely on public applause or private approval. You'll need a relationship with God so rooted, so unshakable, that even when the world turns silent, your spirit still speaks in clarity. This is the part of the awakening where the noise quiets, so the voice of God can get louder. He's silencing the opinions of others so you can finally hear your own divine instructions. He's cutting the cords of codependence so you can walk confidently in your calling. He's teaching you to stop begging people to stay and start trusting Him when they walk away. Because the truth is, some people were never meant to walk with you into the fullness of your purpose. They were assigned to the version of you that God is now burying. And as painful as it feels, their exit is often the confirmation that your elevation has begun. Loneliness in this stage isn't just a feeling, it's a refining. God is teaching you how to sit with yourself, how to recognize His voice without needing signs, how to worship without needing a platform, how to walk in faith even when there's no one clapping. He's restoring your spiritual eyes so you can see beyond the surface. He's reminding you that before the crowd ever saw your light, He saw your heart. This is the proving ground. This is where your roots grow deep. This is where your inner voice matures. This is where you stop waiting for someone to call you chosen and begin to walk like you already know you are. So if you're in the middle of this lonely season, don't rush it, don't numb it, don't try to fill it with noise. Let it do its work. Let it cut what needs to go. Let it clear the clutter of who you thought you needed. Chapter 4. The Return of Old Tests. Chosen one. Don't be alarmed when familiar struggles start to resurface. You may find yourself face to face with battles you thought were long gone, temptations you assumed were conquered, emotions you believed were buried, cycles you thought you'd broken. It may feel like you're being dragged backward, but this is not regression. It's divine examination. This is the part of your journey where heaven pulls back the curtain, not to punish you, but to prove you. These old tests don't return to shame you. They return to verify the growth you've undergone in the dark. God doesn't send them to destroy your progress, but to highlight it. You've been doing the inner work. You've been breaking patterns, healing wounds, renewing your mind. Now the question is, can you walk differently when the same temptation shows up? Can you stay still when chaos knocks? Can you respond in wisdom where you used to react in fear? That's how you know you've changed. You'll notice it in the way that old habits no longer hold the same appeal. The triggers that used to unnerve you now feel powerless. The conversations you once entertained feel beneath your current frequency. This is the evidence that your inner man has matured, that the pruning worked, that the wilderness wasn't wasted. It's easy to assume that freedom means never seeing the old thing again, but true freedom means seeing the old thing and choosing differently. You're not going backward. You're moving forward with evidence, and heaven is letting you encounter these moments again, not to crush your spirit, but to crown it with power and wisdom. Sometimes, the final stage before elevation is confirmation, and confirmation often comes through repetition. Life will circle back, but this time you won't trip, you won't fall. You'll notice your new posture, your elevated mindset, your refined discernment. The enemy may try the same tactic, but you're not the same person. This is your spiritual graduation. And just like in the natural, before the diploma is handed out, there's always a final exam. Not because the teacher doubts your progress, but because your elevation demands evidence. And here's the truth, you're already passing. Every time you choose silence over argument, peace over panic, obedience over impulse, surrender over control. That's a past test. You used to crumble at rejection, but now you see it as divine protection. You used to spiral in delay, but now you stand in faith, knowing that timing is sacred. You used to chase approval, but now you walk in divine identity. That is spiritual transformation. That is evolution. That is proof of your readiness. So don't beat yourself up when the old test shows up. Celebrate it, because it's heaven saying, you're ready now, ready to walk in what used to scare you, ready to speak when you once stayed silent, ready to carry what once crushed you. This is not failure revisited, it's favor confirmed. And once you pass this level, the doors that felt locked will begin to open. The delays will turn to acceleration, and the resistance will turn into revelation. Because now, the old test no longer defines you. It confirms you. Chapter 5. The Revelation of Who You Really Are. In this sacred stage of your awakening, everything begins to shift, starting from the inside out. But the shift isn't loud. It's not driven by applause, achievements, or validation. It's internal, quiet, deep. You begin to see yourself clearly, maybe for the very first time, not through the cloudy lens of pain, rejection, or trauma, but through the radiant clarity of purpose and divine identity. The fog lifts, the self-doubt quiets, The masks start to fall off, and what's left is you, the real you. Not the version others tried to label, not the version shaped by survival, but the version God formed in eternity. The one who is fearfully and wonderfully made, the one who carries spiritual weight, the one heaven recognizes even when the world overlooks. You begin to walk differently, think differently, speak differently, not out of pride, but out of alignment. You no longer try to fit into rooms that shrink you. You no longer chase people who misunderstand you. You no longer apologize for the oil you carry, because now you realize you were never called to blend in. You were born to stand out. This is when a holy confidence begins to rise. Not arrogance, but divine assurance. You know who sent you. You know what you survived. You know what's in you. You no longer need permission to be powerful. You've seen too much. You've grown too much. You've been through too much to question your calling now. You're no longer operating from insecurity. You're operating from identity. That's what this season is unlocking. A revelation that your worth is not tied to your works. Your value is not based on titles, followers, or applause. It's based on your position in the kingdom. You're not just forgiven, you're favored. You're not just healed, you're here for a reason. You're not just saved, you're sent. And with that revelation comes a new voice, a new posture, a new spiritual authority. Your words begin to carry weight because they come from a healed place. Your presence shifts atmospheres not because of charisma, but because of character. You're no longer striving, you're standing. You're no longer performing, you're aligned. This is the moment when people start noticing. But more importantly, you start noticing. You start loving yourself without conditions. You start speaking to yourself with grace. You stop entertaining anything that contradicts what God says about you. You protect your peace. You honor your anointing. You guard your gates. Because now you know who you are. You're not just a survivor. You're a strategy, a divine solution, a carrier of generational answers. You're walking proof that God restores, reclaims, and reveals. And even in solitude, you're not alone. Heaven backs you. The angels recognize you. The realm of the Spirit knows your name. That's why the warfare was so heavy, because the enemy saw this version of you coming. But guess what? You arrived anyway. You are awakening to the real you, the called you, the crowned you, the confident, clear, chosen you. Chapter 6. The strange peace in the middle of the storm. Chosen one, this chapter marks one of the clearest signs that your full awakening is near. Not because everything has gotten easier, but because you've gotten still. There's a shift happening within you that doesn't make logical sense. The kind of shift that even those close to you can't explain. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's peaceful, but in a way that feels supernatural. You should be overwhelmed. You should be anxious. You should be afraid, but you're not. The bills aren't fully paid. The promise hasn't fully manifested. The warfare hasn't fully stopped. And yet, you're calm. That's how you know you've entered into the deep waters of your spiritual maturity. This is not just any peace. This is God's peace. The kind that passes all understanding. The kind that builds no walls but creates an impenetrable force around your spirit. The kind that doesn't silence the storm, but silences you in the storm. This is the eye of your spiritual hurricane. The place where everything around you may be spinning, but within you, something has settled. You're no longer running from the fire. You're walking through it, unburned. You're no longer begging for the door. You're trusting that God will open it when it's time. This is the kind of peace that can't be bought taught, or manufactured. It can only be given by the one who commands the winds and waves. And here's the truth. This peace isn't proof that the battle is over. It's proof that the battle no longer has access to your soul. Your emotions have bowed to your spirit. Your reactions have bowed to your revelation. You don't just believe in God's word anymore. You've become it. You don't just hope for peace. You carry it. You don't just recite scripture. You embody it. And that's the awakening. Because peace is power. It's not passive. It's not weakness. It's the weapon that silences the enemy. The moment you stop reacting in panic is the moment the enemy knows he's lost control over your narrative. You don't flinch like you used to. You don't retaliate like you used to. You don't spiral like you used to. That's because you've been anchored, rooted, seated. This is your spiritual seatbelt, not holding you back, but holding you together. And don't mistake the stillness for stagnation. You are not being delayed. You are being developed. God is doing something in the invisible that requires your stillness. Not every movement is progress, and not every pause is punishment. Sometimes the greatest transformations happen when you stop trying to move and simply trust. In this season, God is teaching you how to carry peace like a mantle, not just for yourself, but for others. When you walk into a room, you shift the atmosphere, not because you're loud, but because your peace speaks louder. You don't have to force your authority. You don't have to explain your calling. The calm in your spirit announces who you are, and that's divine. Chapter 7. The activation of divine instruction. Now that you're awakened, divine instruction is being released over your life in a new way. Not through confusion, not through fear, but through clarity, pure, unmistakable clarity. The voice of God is becoming louder in your spirit, not because He just started speaking, but because you finally reached the frequency where you can hear Him clearly. This is the stage where you're no longer begging for direction, because direction is flowing like a river. Ideas you never thought of will begin to pour in. Instructions that seem strange will begin to make sense. You'll feel a tug in your spirit, and this time, you won't second-guess it. You won't delay. You won't overthink. You'll move with confidence, because now your soul has matured enough to obey without needing to understand everything. You've spent seasons training your obedience, crying through confusion, pushing through silence. Now, your spirit is trained to recognize divine alignment. What used to confuse you now confirms you. What used to scare you now prepares you. That strange prompting in your heart, that unusual leading to go left when logic says, go right, that's not just your imagination. That's the Spirit of God, leading you into places your mind could never have mapped out. And here's the key. Your obedience in this stage won't just affect you. It will unlock doors for others. Your yes is tied to the release of others. You're not just waking up for yourself. You're waking up for your generation, for your bloodline, for the places God assigned you to touch before you were even born. Nations are waiting on your obedience. Systems are waiting on your presence. People you haven't even met are depending on the decisions you're about to make. The shift you're sensing is not just personal, it's prophetic. God is activating you as a solution. You are someone's answered prayer. You are someone's divine connection. You are the one God has been preparing behind the scenes. And now, He's instructing you to step forward, not with arrogance, but with authority. You've passed the test of silence. You've endured the fire of refinement. You've sat quietly when you could have fought back. You've surrendered when you could have retaliated. And now, God is trusting you with strategy. This is the era of execution. No more procrastination, no more doubt, no more waiting for confirmation after confirmation. You are the confirmation. You are the evidence of God's promise in motion. When you speak now, heaven backs it. When you move now, divine doors open. When you obey now, legacy begins. The cocoon is officially cracking. The veil is lifting. The old you has nothing left to hold on to. You're not just free, you're ready. Ready to build, ready to lead, ready to walk in rooms you once felt too small for.